So, Father Simon and the holy jurors of justice and forgiveness, I'm right. This is from Bob the Handyman. That's Bob the Handyman.
I'm writing everything down because I've noticed Bobby does this and she draws stuff as
but
well.
I noticed Simon doesn't tell you how to spell it, which is... Yeah, he used to do.
B-O-B?
Yeah, no, I know that. I know,
Okay.
See, welcome to my world, Joe.
I am writing to seek forgiveness for a sin that goes back more than 30 years, and one that has haunted me ever since. The year before, I had left Her Majesty's Armed Forces after serving 9 years as an RAF telegraphist. But with there not being much call for my rather obscure trade at the time, I did whatever I could to earn an honest crust. I've always been a practical and hands-on type of chap, so I mowed lawns, trimmed hedges, cleaned blocked drains, dug gardens, sorted out dead wisteria, wallpapered living rooms. That's not... I've just added that one in.
Bob, I've got your number.
Painted stuff. Mechanical items, you know. So in fact I did a lot of painting. I painted window frames, front doors, greenhouses, sheds and fences. You name it, I painted it. Now, due to word getting round regarding my painting skills and keen prices, this is where my confession begins. One morning I received a phone call from Jack, who was my friend Gaz's dad, asking me if I could paint him and his wife Elsie's outside toilet and coal shed, to which I agreed. I turned up on the agreed day armed with tins of paint and brushes, gloss pine green for the doors, gloss black for door handles and hinges, gloss white for the door frames and interior woodwork, and white emulsion for the walls. Deciding to tackle the gloss paint first, and knowing it would take several hours to dry, I set to sanding and priming and top coating. By lunchtime it was pretty much done, and I stood back to admire my handiwork. I'd stepped outside to get a wide brush and paint stirrer from my bag when Jack appeared from the kitchen door with a rolled up newspaper under his arm and his pipe in his hand. "Elsie's made you a bite of lunch," he said as he headed towards the recently painted toilet door. "Don't worry, I'll mind the paint," he added, carefully closing the door behind him. Now, what I didn't know, and what I only found out from Gaz several days later, was that Jack was a creature of habit, and Elsie had banned him from smoking that horrible smelly pipe in the house. So every day at around 1 p.m, come rain or shine, he'd take his morning paper, a pencil to do the crossword with, his pipe, and a box of matches, and head to the outside loo to allow him half an hour spent in simple pleasures in a cloud of pipe smoke. You might be able to guess where we're going here. I was just about to take my seat at the kitchen table for lunch when both Elsie and I simultaneously heard a shout of alarm, followed by a howl of pain, followed by a dull thud, followed by another yell of pain, followed a few seconds later by the sound of the outside toilet door being flung open and rapid footsteps heading away from the house. We both ran to the kitchen door to see Jack on his knees on the lawn with his lit pipe clamped between his teeth, his trousers just above his knees, clutching at his nether regions. He was also covered in white emulsion. You see, Father Simon, what had happened was there was a small hand basin in the toilet, and I had cleaned my gloss brushes in it with white spirit before drying them with toilet roll. Normally I'd carry a selection of rags with me specifically for that purpose, but on that day I must have left them at home. Not knowing quite what to do with the aforementioned toilet roll, I dropped it into the toilet, fully meaning to flush it away. Then Jack had appeared at the door, and lured by the promise of lunch, I forgot to pull the chain. Apparently what happened next was that Jack placed his newspaper carefully on top of the toilet roll holder, along with his pencil, settled himself down, and after striking a match and lighting his pipe, he dropped the lit match between his legs.
No!
And into the toilet bowl. We can only imagine the scene as the accelerant-soaked toilet paper has ignited and the flames licked at his underpinnings, shall we say. But what do I know for certain? Well, I know this. He leapt vertically from his seat and his shoulders struck a shelf fixed to the wall at about chest height. On it was a toilet duck, a spare toilet roll and a freshly opened tin of white emulsion, which also shot into the air and then fell to earth, covering him in dulux as it went. I don't believe he was badly injured, and apart from being a little scorched, he seemed absolutely fine later in the day. And Elsie had popped him in a cool bath and had applied copious amounts of butter to the affected areas, although I must say he was doing a very passable John Wayne impression when he came round to inspect my work and pay me. Unfortunately, neither Jack or Elsie are still with us, but this has weighed heavily on my mind ever since. I need forgiveness from Jack, wherever he is, because after that day's shenanigans, Elsie apparently forbade him from ever smoking his pipe in any part of the house ever again. And especially I'm sorry to Elsie, because rather than do the honourable thing and admit what I'd done, I suggested that the cause of the sudden jet of flame leaping from the toilet was due to a build-up of methane. That might have bubbled up somehow inconveniently and ignited the drop match. Even worse, That theory gave Elsie a morbid aversion to toilets for the rest of her life, apparently. Mind you, that's a bad
extreme.
That's a little bit, really. I don't know how you're going to cope with that. Anyway, Bob the handyman, basically, white spirit and matches and smoking doesn't really go well together. Anyway, Joe, what do you reckon to that then?
Well, in the beginning, I was liking Bob and I was trusting him because he said himself that he was an honest chap and he was a handyman, the kind of person I really need in my life, because I'm certainly not married to one. So I was thinking, Bob is the kind of guy that I would trust very much indeed. He sounded very diligent, very conscientious, and I couldn't see where he could possibly go wrong. However, to do something as irresponsible as putting the toilet roll down the toilets, soaked in white spirit, for poor old Jack. Was it underpinnings? Is that what you called it?
I think, yes.
Yeah, to set fire to his
the
underpinnings.
Flames licked at his underpinnings.
Yeah, okay. That is kind of unforgivable. So I think I'm going to have to say, I was quite happy because I was reminded of Hazy Fantasia and the great song John Wayne is Big Leggy.
Yes.
So I thanked him for that. But I have to say that Bob the Firestarter, as you are now known, you should never have done that. You should never have set fire to Jack, and you are not forgiven.
Could have been a nasty one here, Bobby.
The thing is, it was so funny and bad at the same time. It was awful. What I'm impressed with is Jack managed to hold onto his pipe in his teeth the whole time. He ends up on the lawn with his, with things on show. It's difficult here because, of course, you didn't mean to. There was nothing really intended, but you did, of course, just lose concentration, Bob, and you shouldn't have put the things in white spirit down the toilet anyway, regardless of who was going to sit on it. So I think, actually, you've got a double no forgiveness. I'm definitely with Joe on this one. Not forgiven.